hope we're dead on accurate for starting. So I will just welcome everybody to tonight's Community Services meeting. So thank you to all members of the public, councillors and officers for joining us for tonight's meeting. Please be aware that the council is video recording this and will be uploaded soon onto our YouTube channel. I'd just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I make sure that everybody has their phones switched to silent or off. If councillors have any concerns about hearing or seeing anyone in the meeting, please let myself or a council officer know about this straight away. The fire exits are clearly marked, with two being in this room being the closest. There's one there. Assembly room is the flat grass area by the patio. And please remain seated unless you're invited to speak or need to take a comfort break, and the toilets are down the corridor. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to tell me that you wish to speak. I will invite you to speak, and if you're comfortable standing, please do so to ensure that you can be heard across the room. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. You don't need to state your name when you start speaking if you don't wish to, but we ask that you clearly state which agenda item you're talking about. I ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of the agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible in order to let others follow the meeting. And if any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please state point of order. I will then gesture you to elaborate. If anyone present is thought to be behaving unacceptably, they will be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening, and on behalf of the council, I'd like to welcome everyone who are attending this council meeting. Right, do we have any apologies for absence?
That's Linda Warraven.
Right, and we have a substitute. Yes. So thank you, Councillor Buchanan, for stepping in. That's very helpful. Right. So disclosure of interest, to deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests or interests other than pecuniary interests, as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Do we have anyone declaring any pecuniary interests? Right. Public participation. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? The lady on the back row had her hand up first. Would you like to stand up, Lily, please? Thank you.
I'd like to speak on agenda item 4, number 13, camper van parking. Looking at the drawings that have been done, LW 2323F, the verge opposite Martello Mews. Looking at what's proposed there, we have a red line proposed going up to Martello Road. We can't see what this would actually do for the verge area, as the yellow line that's been implemented going from the Martello Tower to Martello Road is insignificant and not really of any use. So we just want more clarification on the signage that's going to be used within the verge area, and as to whether this could be car parking only, having that there is motorhomes consistently, even not seasonal anymore, having bad weather recently, it's still a huge problem. So that was the area. Thank you.
There was another lady on the front row, I think. So is the lady... Oh, yeah, right. Okay, fair enough.
Hello, good evening everyone. I'm Sarah Mackenzie, I'm the ecologist with On the Verge, and I'd like to speak to agenda item 7. We on the Verge really welcome the committee's proposal to take on board the whole cutting of verges. My colleague Tina has circulated some information about what happens in Dorset County Council, and that really is quite extraordinary what they're doing. I'm not going to go into detail here, but that information that Tina provided details the achievement of the Dorset County Council in adopting a cut and collect twice a year, and that has benefited biodiversity and has reduced their costs. So obviously we wouldn't expect the town council to go to that straight away, but it's something to bear in mind for something in the future. We feel it's important to manage for biodiversity because that will lead into the climate change committee proposal. It will help to reduce costs and it will also help to reduce carbon. So thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, the lady in the parka. Yep.
Hello, my name's Marjorie Diamond and I'm here talking as part of two community groups, On the Verge with Sarah and also Trees for Seaford. And this is to speak to agenda item 7 also. So likewise, I welcome the proposal to bring the management of the verges in-house. And I think we have a slightly different perspective on verges and green spaces, whereas sometimes they are seen as, if you like, empty areas, blank spaces. We see them as spaces full of life. They're full of flowers, wildflowers, insects, and through the work of Trees for Seaford, we have over about 15 years planted coming up for 600 trees in Seaford, many of them in verges. One question we did have as well with the proposal was the wildlife verges. So Seaford has a number of wildlife verges, designated verges, that need to be managed in a slightly different way. And in particular in Horth Hill there is an amazing orchid colony in one of the verges, over 50 orchids. And again, this needs to be managed sensitively. And one of the issues that we have had over the years, and possibly because of the complex system of different councils, different contractors managing different bits of grass, and to be honest, the grass doesn't know if it belongs to Seaford Town Council, East Sussex Council, or Lewes District Council. But for example, the wildlife verges should have been cut and collected. That hasn't happened this year, it hasn't happened in subsequent years. And likewise, there has been issues with the green spaces, the areas of the green spaces that should have been cut and collected, and the grass wasn't collected and hadn't been collected. And a big issue for Trees for Seaford is damage to our trees by strimmers. And you might be surprised to know, but we lose more trees, we have more damage to trees by strimmers, by council contractors than anything else. Vandalism, neglect, anything else. Every year there is strimmer damage. It's really upsetting for us. We've raised it year on year on year, and we have never had an adequate response. And so this is again an opportunity to think about, if you do decide to bring this in-house, when you're looking at your contractors, not just to consider money, but also how they care for all those living things in the verges. And so very simple things, but talking to them beforehand, training, and consequences if damage is done to trees or the wildlife is damaged by not managing things properly and according to the contract. Thank you very much.
Anyone else who's physically present, as it were?
Chair, I'm very conscious that obviously under the two people who've just spoken, obviously that's sort of report discussion at council.
Yes.
Obviously council's verbal comments will be mindful of those comments when they have a discussion this evening. So I want to go back to the first public participation, which was the camper vans, just to maybe clarify this a bit further. I think the key message from Seaford Town Council to our residents at the moment is to respond to the consultations. You need to tell East Sussex County Council the things you're telling us, and make sure all your friends, neighbours, residents, whoever else, you know, bus stop people, whatever, people Bumptons, Morrisons, whatever, get them to respond to that consultation. Because of the decision, I mean, it doesn't help anybody, it doesn't help you in terms of different decisions lying with different bodies. That doesn't help you guys at all in terms of your process, but it's really important to get East Sussex to understand what the problems are, what the scale of the problems are. What they fed back to us is, because this is the second time they've done the consultation, where they did the one, they said that the previous version, they didn't get very many responses. So that doesn't help in terms of influencing around the changes you might want to see made. So our key message is to make sure East Sussex know about the things they need to know to as many people as possible, if that's okay. Then what this report is trying to explain is that the little bit of land that Seaford Town Council owns, which runs from Martello Tower up west, just up as far as it shows on where the red line goes up to, if you know. Because the rest of it is kind of highway, as it were, there wasn't really any, if you like, effective jurisdiction of that bit. So this consultation is to bring jurisdiction to that area as well as all the other areas. Obviously, people have views about whether that jurisdiction goes far enough. That's what we need to be telling East Sussex in the consultation. But once there's been the consultation, the Town Council will then see what we feel able to do in that land with this first step having been taken. I know that's quite bureaucratic and stuff, but I hope that helps to explain where we're up to and what needs to happen next. Thank you.
And just for the record, I'd like to say that we have printed off the written submissions from other people who haven't been able to attend. I will have a look through and see if there's anything relevant under the agenda items as they come along. There have been one or two extra items raised at that stage, so I will employ my judgment about that. But we have taken it into consideration, we have read them, so we're not ignoring them, they are here. Okay. Right, so moving on to agenda item 4. This is a relatively short report on an enormous amount of officer work and time. So don't be misled by the small number of pages. This is very brief on a huge amount of the range of scope that our officers are being involved with. So I shall hand over to Lawrence, Head of Assets, Projects and Services, and also Sharon to talk to this agenda item.
Good evening. I'm not going to, you can read through it, so I'm not going to go through every item. There's a couple of things to update you on, which are the Christmas Magic, the gift giving, which is 5.3, is doing really well, and it looks like we might meet our 150 gifts target. And Christmas Magic, it's put here, set to come in on budget, actually came in under budget, £500 under budget this year, so that's good news. Dog waste bins, item 10. That is, we've been working with Lewis District. We've actually had a meeting now, and we're looking at bringing a report in March to Community Services for you to look at what the next stages might be. Camper vans is in this, which we've just talked about, and then the beach huts. I think a key recommendation on that is a different way of letting the beach huts to see if we can't be more inclusive and reduce the price down. So have a Monday to Thursday for families, and then a weekend, which will be a bit more expensive. We're just hoping that that will appeal, because our beach hut rentals were slightly down on last year, and we think that may be the way the bookings were put out was what was to put them. That's all right.
Okay, short and sweet. Any comments or questions, Helen?
Just to be concise, the recommendation should say to agree to hold the higher charges for the beach huts. Otherwise, that sentence could be the higher charges for anything.
Right. Okay, yeah, I can add that. Does that sound, so it's more specific?
Yeah.
Councillor Bristow?
Thank you. Sorry, a couple of things. And the Hope Gap steps, when we look at options, could we look at also scoping out whether it's possible to do something similar to the Burning Gap steps, which can retreat with the preceding cliff? Is that possible to go in there? Is that fine?
Well, so
The options.
so what's happening is so that will be what we try to do, is steer away from saying anything until the group actually comes forward with what they would the group being the National Trust, the SSSI, South Downs Wildlife Trust, just to get their direction. But absolutely, that is something definitely that is could be considered. So would you like us to just, what would you like us to do with that actually, to capture it in minutes? Yeah, fine.
Yeah. And the dog waste bin, sorry, just a bit of clarification. Is this to kind of potentially to do away with the red dog waste bins and have everything coming together that seems to be happening over the district?
Yeah.
Could I also just make another request that we look at the angle of, is that as effective in terms of the picking up as having the red bin and the other one? I think that's part of the picture, so if that can just be presented, that would be brilliant. And also on the camper van parking, will the Town Council be making a full response to this part of the consultation as we did the informal part or not?
Yes, through the Planning and Highways Committee.
Okay, brilliant.
And is that the correct timing? Because
So,
it goes to the middle of January?
yeah, we should, I'll check there's a meeting we can definitely do it.
Yes, yeah, we need some sort of formal reply.
I think that there isn't a great deal to add to the previous reply, which obviously that came from full council, but we'll see if anyone else want to add anything to the previous reply.
Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So when beach huts are talked about, it's clear to me here that these are the ones. There are various kinds of beach huts referred to in these documents, and I start to get confused about which beach huts we're talking about what. I understand the rental ones. I have indeed rented myself, and I'll be delighted that we're changing the system. We are changing the system of rental, because I think that will help. But I just ask, I don't ask for clarification now, it's just when you are referring in documents to beach huts, could you be clear about which beach huts you're referring to? The west ones, West Beach ones are clear. It's the others.
No, it's a really good point, because it's really easy to get confused, so definitely we will make sure that we make it clear which ones we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. In relation to the consultation about the camper vans, I'm extremely sympathetic to this problem with camper vans. It seems a very short consultation period. I didn't get what you were saying there. You were saying we already have got enough information. Because it seems, where is it now? It's under, on here.
Yeah.
It's under 13.5. And to start on the 1st of December and close on the 5th of January when it's Christmas, in the middle there, it just seems not really allowing enough time for a full and proper consultation. But maybe there already has been enough consultation. I'm relatively new at this and I don't know, but it's not enough time for a proper full consultation. On a very
the scope of the consultation, this is East Sussex County Council's consultation. We have no say over how they operate that consultation. So they've obviously set the times themselves. And just to help it, it's a fair question to help everyone understand. They do the consultation on this in effectively 2 laps. They do what they call the informal consultation for a first round, which is the one that happened earlier in the summer autumn time.
Right.
Then they consider that and then do this one, which is the formal consultation. I think people experiencing that may not experience a massive difference between those 2 consultations. To be honest with you, in terms of the content, is very similar between the 2, and that's why, from the council's point of view, the points we've made before probably still stand really in terms of this sort of. So basically, they do a consultation in 2 stages. They did what they call the informal stage.
Okay.
We responded to that. This is the formal stage. Our response to that really still stands, but our planning and highways, as it says in the report, our planning and highways committee have to consider such consultations anyway, so there'll be opportunity to see if anyone wants to add anything to what we said.
Okay, I understand that process. I think it's unreasonable of County Council
council to expect us to deliver a consultation in such a short period of time and just say to them, sorry, but I mean, I'm not saying we're not going to do it, but I'm saying, could they in the future please take this into consideration or something like that? Because it feels so,
Yes,
why should we run around in circles within 3 weeks, in effect, working time in that period?
Yeah.
The rest of it is holiday.
Yeah, I think that's how.
Thank you.
Councillor Dumas?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if anybody's done that consultation, what happens is you go on and there are in Seaford there are 3 sites related to the seafront that you can pick. And you have to do, if you pick out at the first one, it says, do you agree with the proposal to limit parking for 12 hours, no return 12 hours? Yes or no? And then there's another box that says, what are your views? And then lots of other questions about disability, gender, all the rest of it, which you don't need to fill in. But that's in essence what the consultation is. It does not include any of the items we discussed as a council at the previous meeting, I forgot when it was. That is all it's consulting on, so it's really disappointing. And when you get to the end of it, you've got to go back to the beginning and pick the second address. Do that again, then go back to the beginning and pick the third address. It's really, really poor. And I struggle to find how they can call it a consultation.
Yes, I would just add, I've been through that, and the first time I clicked on it, it actually took me to the wrong map. It took me to Newhaven. So you've got to be very careful when you click on these things to know what you're being asked to pass judgment on. It is not easy, so it's not you, it's the consultation process. And I had to come out of it and go back into it. So please be very careful when you're looking at it, because it's not well designed, I'm afraid. But we are where we are, and we have to show that, you know, we have to play ball with the consultation that's been offered to us. I would just say that following the full council meeting, I met with the Chief Parking Officer of East Sussex Highways with the County Council responsible for Seaford Esplanade. So we started the ball rolling to let them know the level of emotions and feeling from the residents that had been voiced at the full council meeting. So there is no misunderstanding about how important this is and how much we want this moved on, and not in just a routine parking review. This has to be done quicker. So we can't really complain that we're being short time intervals, because we've said this has to be sorted before the next summer season. So we are trying to get this moved on. They have quite rigid legal boundaries, which the parking officer was very pleased to explain to us. So we're trying to help him to help us, if you like. But it's not easy. The Road Traffic Act of 2004 is a legal minefield. And it became very obvious that we all have to work together. So moving some of the maps around and various things, that has happened, and the changes in the times has happened to try and help so that we are not actually penalising local residents. Because there were very clear messages from the parking officer that if you just do it on one side of the road, they go to another side of the road. If you do it on both sides of the road, they go down into the feeder road. So you may solve a problem for one set of residents and make a problem that didn't exist for other people. So it's the law of unintended consequences. So we have to listen to people who are well versed in these issues to know what is possible, what is reasonable, and the timescales that are acceptable. So it had to be a meeting of minds of what our problem was and the solutions. It became very obvious that there is down to public behaviour and understanding, and that cannot be dealt with by parking regulations. So we need to explore matters with the district council officials, because there may be other issues that we can address through bylaws, working with our district colleagues as well. And there's also about enforcement. So we have to maintain a working relationship with East Sussex Highways, because there's no point in having unenforceable rules. And that you don't have the parking officers to be there and look at how long people have been there, or some way of monitoring it. You can have the best double yellow lines in the world, but they're never going to actually work. So it is a very complex issue, because it's a lot about psychology and behaviour, as it is about the Road Traffic Act. So we are moving forward. We are going to discuss it again in March. We're not going to take our eye off the ball. But I would just reiterate what the town clerk says, is we need everybody to put their 2 penny worth in. And if there is, I think is there a comment box?
That's the only 2 things you can do.
I think there is a comment box,
Is
which
comments
may be, yeah.
are
So I put most of
great.
my efforts into the comments box. Because that seemed the only place where I could actually make an opinion, really. So that's what I would say, is please get family and friends and everybody to click on those links and be heard. Councillor Butland. Sorry, I got the wrong glasses.
I think the camper van subject is something where all of the residents and all of the council are in complete agreement. It's probably one of the most contentious issues that we've had in this town for a very long time, and we've had some contentious issues. We need to get more people in the town getting involved in it, and there's a lot of social media out there. Obviously we've got a presence on the town council Facebook site, what are we doing on Instagram and all the rest of it. Maybe some publicising of this to say, look, if you want to get the results, you've got to go to this survey and put your comments in. Otherwise, we will end up with the parking that we deserve, because enough people haven't made a fuss about it. And for the residents to make a fuss to us isn't enough. They've got to go and talk to the council, because there's only so much we can do. So if we can have a concerted social media, I mean, we need a 12-year-old or whoever it is that does social media to do this campaign. I'll probably get my granddaughter involved, she's 7, but she knows all that. But this is where we can reach out to a lot of people very easily, but just stress that there is a short time period, and if you have an opinion, tell someone, not just us, but tell someone at the council, and then a concerted social media campaign will help. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, queries?
Yes.
Councillor?
I just wanted on 5.4, just to clarification, please, on gifts in kind. Obviously, looking at in the little the table there, it shows a total gift in kind of 37,151. And then looking below that, you see that Walk the Chalk was 36,600, and obviously Seaford Bonfire was 525, so that adds up to that total. I just wanted clarification as to what the Walk the Chalk gift in kind was. Is that officer time? And is that actually including the time that there is a dispute about? Or is that officer time that we didn't think was accounted for separate to what we gifted in kind?
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 things. So Walk the Chalk used the Seaford Nature Reserve, and if we were to make the same charges if a filming crew came and used the site in the same way that Walk the Chalk used the site, some of that money, the majority of that money would have been costed in that way, and that would have been the income we would have earned from the use of the land. And then on top of that, you have got officer time in the support and the liaison work that went ahead to deliver the event with the Walk the Chalk organisers.
So is some of the dispute we've got, is that part of the money is outside of this gift? Is that correct? Or what I'm trying to say is, would we possibly get some of this money back if a dispute was resolved in a certain way?
Yes, but not all that figure.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But part of it might come back
Yes.
because it's a slightly...
And that would be the smaller
Bridges
part, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just something else, 12.4, just, I was a bit confused. The asterisk says this includes the estimated commission cost. A commission, what's the commission? What commission was that?
Yeah, I can take that. So we have Tourist Information who take the bookings for us, which they work for the Lewes District Council. So we need to pay commission on the work that they're doing for us to take the bookings for the beach huts. And then we also have somebody else who looks after the cleaning of those units. So each time somebody finishes their rental, and it needs to be cleaned before the next one starts.
Thank you, that's very good, thank you, I understand. The other thing is 12.6, just below it, expenditures are due to increase in installation and dismantling costs, but is there not a storage cost as well?
Not
Do
at
we
the
store
moment.
them?
They're stored at South Hill Barn through the winter months.
Okay, so that's something
So
we
that's
need
our
to consider
asset. Yeah,
when we deal with South Hill.
with the development.
I thought Wings might have stored them for us, okay.
No, and we are looking at the cost for building and dismantling the huts, because that's been the same way for a long time. We're hoping we might be able to reduce some of those prices. That makes me profit.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Just to clarify,
Councillor Rutland again.
thank you, excuse me for not standing. Just to clarify what Councillor Mead said about Walk Chalk, you said some of that cost was the use of the land and some of it was officer time. Obviously, if they weren't using the land would just sit there and not be used, there's no charge for that. And that's what the income would have been if it was rented out to a film company.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But how much of that 36,000 figure is officer time? What would be the breakdown between the two?
The land hire was 35.
So the officer time is basically £1,600.
Plus, there's another now standing charge for officer time.
Okay.
Okay, I think we'll move to a vote now. So, we are asked to note the contents of the report to item 4. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bristow, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Rutland. All in favour? Any abstentions? Any votes against? Right, thank you. Right. Item 5. This is the projects log.
Sorry, can you take me to item?
Oh, sorry. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Mine is right. Okay. So number 2, and this is to agree to hold the higher charges of the beach huts. So, right. Do we need to specify which beach huts?
The Westview rental beach.
Westview rental beach huts at the 2023 prices. Okay. But noting that there will be a week and weekend hire splitting. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Mead, and the seconder? Councillor
Just
Henry.
where does West Beach actually officially start? Where the huts are, or is that just something? Is that a nominal name? It's called West Beach View Hut. Is that true name?
I think it's actually Westview Beach Huts. So
Oh, I see.
there's a
But she
little
transposed
hamlet there.
round. So
Yeah.
can that be amended if that's all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a proposal. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Olivia. Thank you. All in favour? Any abstentions? Anyone against? Right, thank you. Right. Now, we will get to item 5. Okay, so this is the project law. Louise.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the project log, this is second time it's come to committee. At the moment we are rating it as green. We're working on them purple as on cold, with new and inactive. And we've actually had a discussion with Councillor Weirmouth and I, and we might look at fine-tuning the log going forward. But at the moment, the green projects we're actually working on, and the rest are on hold or new. We're working on about 45 projects at the moment that are live with a project list, as you can see, of 75.
And you also said there was a significance to those in bold.
Yeah, so, yes, thank you, Councillor Miller. Projects that have been bolded are ones that are going to have high impact on Seaford Town, either because of officer time, either because of the budget, or their location, or that the residents have strong views about the projects. So that is a surface summary of some of the key projects we've got there. We've got obviously other projects which are much smaller and they're day-to-day more maintenance or operational.
Any comments? Councillor Taylor.
Do you want me to stand up?
Entirely up to you.
It's entirely up to me. I'll do it. That's the decision. Okay. So is this a new way of presenting information? I think it's really helpful, and there's a fair bit of work putting it together. I'm sure, so well done for doing that. I hesitate to ask this question because it's something that's rather far off, but I was really confused about number 51, Edinburgh Road electrics. Just seemed, wasn't sure what that was.
Oh, do you want to
Number 51 on the bottom of page 23.
Yeah.
So we provide electricity to the Bonstead beach huts. And the Skipper Water Sports oh no, they don't have it, sorry, it's just the Bonstead beach huts. But we have been asked before to provide some electricity for the ice cream van as a hookup. But we can't get enough draw from the electricity source that we currently have there to provide further electricity to anybody else.
That's fine.
Yeah, that
Now I get it.
a bigger project.
Yeah.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you. 12, number 12 on the project list. I haven't heard anything about all-weather sports pitches and hub at the Salts. This is new to me. Can someone explain how extensive that would be imagined to be, or is it just the cricket pitch, or what is it exactly?
So this is the council's strategic plan talks about the Salts and development of the Salts, especially the area where between the skate park and the tennis courts, along to the cafe and the areas at the end. So this is a project looking at how we might develop those areas to offer some sort of all-weather playing pitch. The cricket, rugby and football that currently rent the green space from us have real trouble in the winter with a bit of a stream developing across their pitches, and they have had to close some of the pitches. So what they're saying is it would be amazing if there was some sort of all-weather facility that they could use, but not just them, actually develop that as a sports hub right along the front. So that proposal is, and it says the December this committee meeting. Actually, it's just been delayed to get some more details for you, and there will be an email going out with a proposal for everyone to get involved and have discussion.
Councillor Taylor.
So a couple more quick questions, I hope. So, number 56, a men's shed. Someone tell me what that is?
Yeah, so that is an East Sussex County Council proposal to introduce for wellbeing. You probably, the moment I start talking about it, you'll know, it's about mental health for men who, all the research says they don't speak about their mental health. We have no facility like that at all, and they've approached us to say, do we have a space or would we support?
Okay, I would support. So thank you for that. And can I just make a comment in relation to 66, the tennis marketing, because I feel, I'm slightly concerned about, because the tennis courts are not being used as much as perhaps was expected, if I've got that right.
Yeah.
Whether we start then thinking, oh, it's because there's a problem with tennis and people don't want to play it, but it may be that it's to do with, it hasn't been marketed properly. The tennis courts.
Yeah. So
is this an initiative to try and actually expand the interest in tennis?
So what we would do is to attract, but basically we've had feedback from rugby and from cricket. But we also know from bookings that we're not getting the use on the courts at all. So what we are proposing is to overmark the courts and maybe get some evening use for some leagues or other sports, which will bring people to the courts to actually get and see that there's fantastic service here and there are tennis court facilities. One of the feedbacks I've had, because I've been asking why aren't the tennis courts regularly used, and the feedback I've had is it's very windy location, and that does cause problems when you're playing tennis with a tennis ball as opposed to a more heavier ball, which is again why we're thinking we could convert that space into a more dual use during the winter when they're saying it's just not practical.
There have been some interesting comments with the salts and the crouch discussions and stakeholder meetings. These kind of issues are coming up in a very practical and helpful way. We're trying to put them into an operational framework of how that can be moved forward. So quite a lot of things about signage and use and why it's been used and why it's not been used and what things are wrong. We are beginning to find out about them and hopefully put them right.
Thank you.
Right, any more comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much again for this. It's really good and it's amazing to see how much is going on and how much is in the pipeline. There is certainly a lot. I've got one sort of general overarching comment and then a few specific queries. We've got obviously the bold projects and the green projects and the inactive ones and the ones that are on hold. In time, are you looking to move towards a system where we've got a red and a green for projects that are, meeting time and budget, and those that are perhaps having snagging issues and that kind of thing, so that we can kind of see the status in a bit more resolution going forward? I appreciate that, it's quite new, still quite new, and just in the first few months getting to grips with those things. And I'll ask a few specific ones.
Yeah, I think the list is, we're at the point where we think, we use this list every day, so it's a live document. I think we're at the point of feeling this list is working. In terms of how helpful it is with the information for committees, then I think it definitely is some thinking about. One of the things is, Maggie, Councillor Weirmouth was saying is, would it be helpful to say anything that's statutory? It's part of our statutory obligations, so that we start separating out projects in that way. So what we need to be careful of is that we don't overload understanding of the project list to the point where it's actually not very interesting or easy to read. So I think all of these are really great points.
Or maybe even just sort of like the latest update, sort of, in a nutshell kind of thing. Yeah. Which is exactly what I'm going to ask actually on point 2, the Monument wall, the temporary concrete barriers. It's pretty wintry out there, and I'm just wondering what the latest is on that. So that if we're asked, we can say, it's coming this time, that time, or this is being done.
Yeah, we can answer that. We had to go to the Environment Agency for permission to put the blocks there, and that has taken, we've been waiting for that permission to come. Because the Environment Agency had to do a second shingle clear, which they weren't expecting, they do feel the blocks might impinge a bit on the shingle clearing. So we're waiting at the moment to understand when they're going to finish, and then we're looking at where exactly they're being placed.
Excellent, that's really helpful. And the other one or two I was going to comment on was, I was really excited to see on number 70, it's a rain garden at the Salts Play Park. I think, things to do with flooding and rain and water use and so on. I'm actually quite interested from a climate change perspective, and at some point perhaps we can hear and talk about that. And also 74, the men between the seas. I've been speaking to Plastic Free Seaford, and I'm aware they'd like to put in a bench to commemorate one of the first members who's one of their former members. I'm not quite sure where that's at. I gather there have been some talks. And to my mind, I was thinking actually it might be quite good to have this bin for green seeds and the bench perhaps in the same vicinity and sort of run them in tandem, if that would, you know, be favourable to everyone else in the future, because then it would be somewhere with a focus on plastics, plastic waste and marine plastics. And also with the bin for green seed stuff, as you may know, the applications for funded ones are currently open until the 22nd of Jan as well. I might be able to help you with data, because I gather that was a bit of a sticking point before as well. So just
That would be amazing, and no, we didn't know it was open until the 22nd. That's really useful information, thank you. On the benches and the bin, I think the location is going to be, because at the moment it's currently being considered not on our land. So,
Thank you, Chair. Just number 34, Martello toilets. It says build commence November. This is a live document.
Yeah.
Has it started?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yes!
Yes!
I didn't see more questions like that.
Yes!
Just to respond to that, I went by it today, and they're working very well. There's a lot of stuff coming out, and it's a very active site. So nice to see something happening.
on that very quickly, the defibrillator that's there, I gather if the power's been cut off, that probably doesn't work. Is that being sort of recorded and communicated? I just had someone, member of the public, ask whether can it be moved or can it be...
Yeah, so moving it's going to be difficult because of the electricity supply to the unit. So we have asked them to take it off so that we can store it safely to be put back on. But I will double check where we are, making sure that the communications have happened of it being a live unit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. Very quick question. Item 37. Just wondering what the routine Legionella inspections are and who does them and where are they?
Well, so that is actually Zoe's project. Zoe, do you want to speak on that?
Yes, I can't, off the top of my head, I'm afraid I can't actually remember the company who's carried them out, but they have all been carried out, potentially by the rugby club. I know there was difficulty in contacting them, but it could have been carried out by now. So they have all been...
Showers and things like that?
Oh right, yeah, so it's related to any asset that has water, so it's all tested, so showers, drinking water, cooking facilities, so it's tested, so there's the inspections have been carried out on all the assets, and then depending on the report, they'll need to be retested every so often, so that will be then over to the health and safety officer to make sure that they are tested and put into his schedule for the Legionella testing moving forward.
So, how often does one detect Legionella? Just out of interest, is it?
I'm not sure if that counts. Yeah, I mean that's why we do it's statutory. You have to do this testing.
It's a statutory requirement.
Yes,
It's a statutory requirement, so it doesn't matter. The risk is you have to show that you've assessed that risk and you can apply with the statute.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
We don't have any choice.
I mean, the health and safety officer, he has his own schedule and he does this, but we've had an external company coming in for all the reports, but the health and safety officer carries it out in his routine inspection for the assets as well. He does his own testing.
And so the review is included in that?
Yes.
Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Werner. It might sound like a trick question, but it's not meant to be, but I'd like to see how the officers answer it. It said, is this an exhaustive list? So certain things then could possibly be done and then it could fall back a bit for another time. Well, I'm aware of possibly a couple of items not on here, but I won't surprise you with them at the moment. You probably wouldn't be fair, so I'll do that privately. So I was wondering if it is this exhaustive, is there excellence? It could be really on it.
So as at this point in time, this is all the projects that we think are out there. And we, as the projects are closed, they move to a closed list, and we will be bringing a closed list to you once a year. In one of the, so you can have a look at all the projects that have closed.
I mean, the reason why I say that, I mean, I won't mention the two things which I'm pretty sure should be on there or not. Possibility. For example, okay, the bench outside the library, for example.
Bench.
This is not one. That's not one of the two I was thinking of. Just an example. That bench we were gifted outside the library in central Seaford. We were gifted it, but we were meant to maintain it. As you know, now where's that on the list, for example? That's good.
I can answer that. So that will be on the assets register, and then that will be formed as part of the health and safety inspector's regular spot checks.
Well, it goes to that process, then what?
And then if there's any maintenance required, it just comes into our team as a day-to-day activity.
So that doesn't go on this list?
No.
It's main, we're not any day-to-day maintenance is missing. So aside from all these projects, we also run the maintenance, which for the whole of Seaford, and we do have a list of active jobs we're working on maintenance-wise, but we don't keep a detailed list like the projects of what we're maintaining. That's captured in the budget where we're spending money. That's captured by the invoices as they come through.
So I suppose, but I'll discuss it privately, I think. But basically, I suppose when is a project becomes a project and not on, that's where, I don't know if it's partly finance, it could be, it might run the quite too.
I think that's probably the best thing, is if you can have a private conversation just to clarify things.
Thank you, Shirley.
Very helpful, yes, okay. I find it helpful because sometimes residents contact me and ask me where something is, and I've been able to direct them to the list so that there's, I'm saying, I'm sorry, it's for next year, but we haven't lost it. So it is useful, and the more we use it, the more helpful it becomes. Okay, but I am aware of time, so if we could go back to the vote to note the contents of the report on the project log as presented. Could I have a proposal, please? Councillor Rutland and the seconder, Councillor Moore. Thank you. All in favour? Right, okay. And any abstentions? Any? You're abstaining, are you, Councillor?
No.
No, sure. You put your hands up. Oh, sorry. Okay. And any votes against? No. All right, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Right, on to item 6. This is the income and expenditure. We don't have Lucy Clark, the finance officer here.
No, Chair. I'm happy to speak at this point, just to say we're really through the film, and in their absence to thank Andy RFO, Lucy, the finance manager, and Simon as well, the finance team, for putting together this comprehensive information. As you will see, the information presented to you is in the form of a variance report with significant variances to budget explained within the body of the report. So obviously Lucy and her colleagues have picked out key things to highlight the councillors now, but of course councillors are free to ask anything else if they wish to. But as I say, hopefully it's clear from the report what this is trying to do as a variance report, and all the information councillors need should be with them. Happy to hand back to you, Chair, for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. As ever, toilets seems to be at the top of the list of this refurbishment and cleaning and various things, but that's where we are with community services. Colleagues, does anyone have any questions for Town Clerk or any other officer? Councillor Bristol.
Thank you very much. I echo the Town Clerk's I'm not sure whether you'll be able to answer. I hope so. It's quite a specific one. Thinking about bins along the promenade, which we have, and the district council empty.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know which budget line that comes under? I'm wondering if that is on the bottom of page 35. Cost centre 117 seafront at the bottom. Does it come under the general maintenance, or is that captured in a sort of different pot that goes sort of bins wide around town, if you like, that we have? or is it location specific? Because we have dog bin emptying sort of, which is specific to location. I'm just wondering about the general refuse. Is that, do you know how that's dealt with?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's really complicated, basically. And that's because it's the way Lewis choose to bill us. Some of the bins come in ground maintenance.
Yeah.
And then other of the bins are bulk charge, which get added into a grounds maintenance agreement. So going forward, this is a proposal coming in March, we've asked Liz to break this out, and we're having a look at actual bin collection costs, types of bins, and where we're being charged for. So that's in the paper. This is sort of the dog waste bit was a trailer to let you know that's coming.
Thank you, that's really useful, and I really look forward to reading about that.
It's not dog waste, it's dog waste.
It's all waste.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Any other comments or queries? Councillor Rutland.
Over the years, I've seen many balance sheets, profit and loss reports and everything else. I would commend the finance department highly for what they've laid out here, because, quite frankly, it's a work of art. And it's absolutely crystal clear, very, very easy for an untrained person to read, let alone somebody who knows what they're doing. So, highly commended, well done. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that.
Yes, I note my comments to that as well.
Yes, so please pass that on to
Yes, I will.
the relevant
I
people,
sat down with the
because
RFO and Lucy Clark.
bloody good job, well done.
Fired quite a lot of questions, and they are absolutely on the ball. They can
Yeah,
answer them
no,
all
spot
and
on.
give more information.
It-
So
it-
we're very lucky to have them.
it could not be clearer. It's brilliant. Very good work.
Okay. Any other questions, queries? Okay, all right. So we're asked to note the contents of the report. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Rutland and a seconder. Councillor Bristow, all in favour? That's great. Any abstentions? Anyone against? Right. This is another one that will have public interest. We've already had some input. Item 7 about the verge cutting proposals. And I think anyone who's read the papers knows that this is a very short notice. So again, we're over a barrel really in terms of having to make a decision. Working with East Sussex County Council, we have to make this decision now because we've only got 3 days in which to return this. So it's quite important, and it does have quite significant environmental as well as financial aspects to this. And I know it's one of the things that we as councillors get a lot of email comments, and again I note that we've had some very articulate and well-informed input, written input, stating these very things about biodiversity and the pros and cons of cutting and the different kinds of cuts, cut and collect. So I'm learning the jargon and trying to understand the science behind it, but it does make sense. And what seems like a good deal on the surface can be a bad deal later on in terms of diversity and how the plants grow and wildflowers, etc. But we've also had the input about road safety, for example, because there is an issue about safety at junctions, and we have to bear all these in mind. So it's quite a multifactorial decision that we have to make. So Louise,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit more detail to this.
Yes, I think I just want to be really clear. We got the request in October out of the blue from East Sussex, and the options given to us were simply 2 cuts or 6 cuts or do it yourself. There was no other options. And when I contacted them and said, what about 4 or what? No.
And if you do, so you can't even have two and you get someone else to do the cuts. It was very straight, that's what it was. So we put the consultation out with those options. We didn't do it ourselves on the options because I felt that this was something councillors would want to discuss depending on the result. If the result was we want two cuts, then it didn't seem necessary to take it to for us to do it. But again, that's for councillors to decide. The results have come back. It's a really high response. I know it's only in the hundreds, but it is a really high response. Obviously a subject with lots of passion in it. And one of the things I want to mention is we haven't talked about collecting, and we've obviously got the emails through talking about collecting. The cost of the cut and collect probably will double the cost of the contract. One of the areas to consider with collecting as well is some of that might need to be manual, which again increases the cost. The other point I just wanted to make to Marjorie Priest for Seaford is that the wildlife areas that you're talking about have stayed with East Sussex. They haven't offered us those. So we won't be touching any of those or the way they cut them. We're just taking the verges with the link of all the verges that they've asked, that they've listed.
Right. Who'd like to wade into this easily straightforward discussion? Councillor Rutland.
I think the decision is fairly clear, really. When you look at the number of people that responded to the survey, we really have to go with what our community wants, and the majority of them want 6 cuts. Personally, I favour 2 from my own point of view. I think it was very nice having longer verges, except at junctions. But as responsible councillors, we're here to represent everyone. And if the majority of people have said, let's have 6, that's what we should do. The other thing I would say, the lady over there made a comment about strimmer damage to young trees. I know my dad, when he was gardening, he used to put a plastic collar around the bottom of the trees to protect them against strimmer damage. So if strimmer damage is something that is an issue, is there something that we could do to mitigate that with something like a plastic collar around the trees? 2 different subjects, but in the same field. Sorry, just point of order, the lady from the public would like to say something.
Sorry, I know I'm not supposed
I know,
to speak.
Yeah, sorry, we're not allowed to. Do we want to
we can suspend standing orders for a moment?
It's not really normal procedure to add as an ongoing discussion.
Sorry, it's simply a point of accuracy with the strimmer guards. They already, trees already have strimmer guards. The strimmers cut through the strimmer guards and trees.
Okay. Could you write to the officers separately about that so that we can capture it? But we do need to move on. We are.
Better string guard.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to actually just say exactly that. Trees for Seaford, who I am an outside policy representative for, we do put sleeves on and they do get cut through, but also they get run into by the nose as well. But I absolutely agree with what Councillor Rutland said. And what is very interesting, actually, particularly with the comment that came just tonight, I think, from Matthew Simpkin and Phil Norton, who say that we've been given on this bit here, who is saying things of the ilk of don't bother to try and grow wildflowers in verges. We've got the national park right next door. We're not trying to grow wildflowers here. We just want to keep our verges clean. It seems to me that the two sides of the argument actually come together on this, because if you've read all the information that was come from Dorset County Council, what you do want to do initially is to make lots of cuts in the first year and probably the second year and possibly even the third year. Because what you're trying to do if you want wildflowers is to cut down the nitrogen, which, if you don't collect it, is left on the soil, which is what happens at the moment. You get tons of grass and it just mulches in and mulches in, and what happens the next year? The grass grows even more. Yippee, lots of fertiliser. So what you want to do is to cut and collect a lot in the initial years, probably 6 times the first year, probably 4 times the second year, maybe even 4 times the next year. Because what you're trying to do is reduce completely the nutrition, and then the grass won't actually be so verdant. And what you can then hope to see is wildflowers which actually want a completely depleted soil. So it is absolutely critical that we have a collecting programme. And I believe that if we are going to take it in hand ourselves, which I sincerely believe that the C, the option C is the one to go for. If it does cost us more money, I think that will satisfy everybody. Because what you'll find in 4 or 5 years' time, I think what you'll find is you won't have to make so many cuts. And so the people who actually don't want the things to be so verdant anyway will be happier. But what you might end up with also is a whole lot of wildflowers there, and they probably won't mind because they won't be very tall. It's not like the grass that goes everywhere and then seeds all over the pavement, and then you have to have the chemicals to treat the pavements. So I'm very much in favour, as Councillor Ruxton says, maybe for opposite reasons, but I think both, as I said, I think both will be satisfied, certainly initially. And I think then we can, as the people who are doing this ourselves, we can then instruct specifically our operators and contractors to do what we want them to do, because it's within our remit to do that. And I think we can monitor it then very carefully, and we can bring the whole thing in-house, and we can discuss it with our voluntary bodies who are there on the ground most of the time, and they can identify to us where very valuable plants are, where we might not want to cut at a particular time, because that's actually when they're going to be flowering. And we can say, well, maybe that area there, we don't cut it that time, we leave that one out, and then it gets cut next time. So it might have to be very specific, and I'm sure they will help to identify and map the areas so that we get the best cuts. Thank you very much, Jo.
Just to respond, if the discussion is going towards 6 cuts, then I would advise that you agree as the contract with the option to cut up, because it's difficult to agree. If we agree 6 cuts now and we go into contract for 3 years, then the cutting less amount of cuts will mean we're not going to get the savings, because they'll say the contract's 6 cuts. So the best thing is to go into a contract with less cuts and commission more cuts until the point that you think the cuts can drop down. It's just
Right, yes, I think I've got that one.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Okay, Councillor
Clarification. So, appreciate this has landed pretty quickly and we don't have long to respond. When is the next time we will get to choose whether we opt in or out?
5 years.
6. That's
5
the
years.
missing bit of information.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
I think that is an important context, because if we're going to do this, we're going to dramatically change the environment. And we need to know it has to be a long-term issue, otherwise we could, financially and environmentally, it may not be a good idea to do this one year at a time. So I think it is quite a big shift that we're actually being asked to consider at very short notice. Councillor Rutland.
In conjunction with what Councillor Meek said, if you start with 6 cuts and then next year you need 4 and so on, that sounds like it's better for the environment. From what you're saying, we have to make a decision based on 5 years. So while we say yes to 2 cuts a year at the moment, with, as you said, the option to increase it, and then we explain that to our residents, because obviously everyone's voted for 6. And we'll take all of those votes into consideration, but because it's a 5-year contract and we won't need to do 6 every year for 5 years, we've accepted 2 with and we'll increase it for the first couple of years, and that's why we went against what you voted for, but it makes sense. So, like everything, communication is the key, and it sounds like very sound advice. So, while we are going to comply with what they've asked for, we're going to look like we're doing the opposite.
It needs to be tailored to the environmental reality.
But explained.
Yes, Councillor Dubar and then Councillor Lynn.
Hi, we didn't give our residents the option to vote for 4 cuts. So the fact that they said 6 was,
Yeah, but they're not thinking of 5 years in one block, are they? They're probably thinking of,
I'm just thinking about the motion here to self-deliver 4 bird cuts a year. I mean, if this is a motion for the council to self-deliver, and then a tender is going to be drawn up where we can all feed into the tender to say, if it is a 5-year contract, we want what we want. We also want collections, not just about cuts. If that's what we're voting for, it's fine. But if we're just self-delivering 4 cuts a year, then I can't vote for that. So is there an option to change this proposal?
We could change the wording of it.
Absolutely.
I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah.
We could approve the town council to self-deliver a pre-agreed number of cuts, perhaps in agreement with the Climate Change Committee. Did you think that, we have 3 members of the subcommittee here. Do you think you have any sort of role in this? In monitoring and working with our community colleagues?
Given the
Councillor Bristol, you're chair of the climate subcommittee.
I think this is a very interesting and poignant topic, and we have real opportunities here. We also have, obviously we're in a cost of living crisis at the moment, and whilst £1.60 doesn't sound like a lot, every little counts for a lot of people, and when we're making these budgeting decisions, I think it's really, really important that we do so in the best value for money way. But to me, the question is the best value for money way over what time period? And this information about having, only the option for 5 years is quite a biggie. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. I thought it might be a year or 2 years. 5 years is quite a long chunk of time. As it's a long chunk of time, if we were to self-deliver and arrange a contract for our own contractor for 5 years, I think with all the, we've got, we've had the Dorset County Council arrangements for cut and collect mentioned. I've looked into that a fair bit myself. There are a lot of similarities, there are a lot of nuances. Even here within Seaford, we've got sort of slightly different environments and regimes and so on. I think we need to think about what our goals are. We were talking about biodiversity and carbon sequestration and all those kind of things, which are absolutely very relevant to climate change and our 6th strategic objective in the town council that we've just made. We've also had some resident comments which I'll echo from first-hand experience about this, forgive me, I don't know the Latin name, but the barley grass with the very sharp darts, which seems to be, at least anecdotally, establishing a monoculture in many places, which is very dangerous for dogs. My own dog had a seed lodged and was choking, and thankfully he was insured and thankfully he survived. But whether that affects wildlife as well. The timing of cuts, I would say, is likely to be important according to which species we're trying to encourage. In the long term, if we're going for biodiversity, we'll be looking, to sort of nurture that along as well. How would we monitor it? I think it's a fantastic initiative that we could, if we properly plan this out, took a bit of time to plan this, work with our partners, community groups, and perhaps some other experts, and obviously contact Dorset if they're willing, and any other councils and places that have done this kind of thing. So yes, I'm seeing it as a bit of a bigger project and a long-term project, and I wonder if in, for example, the first year, if we do come to self-deliver, we go with something that's sort of moderate, that's sensible, but then we have, alongside that, we perhaps take it into climate change, just scope and spec what we would need to know to then be able to define a contract for the next 4 years to move towards that sweet spot between cost and environmental benefit and general residents' benefits, pets, wildlife, and all the rest of it. So I would be quite in favour of doing something for this first year. If we've got to choose for 5 years, take it out of East Sussex, and also explore collaborating potentially with other town councils in the nearby areas. Peacehaven do their own in-house, Newhaven contract out, I know they've been looking at cut and collect as well. See if if there are perhaps any economies of scale or any appetite to work together that might be had, because the thing is East Sussex don't, as far as I know, they don't offer cut and collect, is that true? No, they don't. So, you know, I think we've got to balance this whole having monocultures and the grass cuttings that clog up the drains and then cost money to unblock the drains and are a pain for everybody, with the longer term benefits. So I would propose that something would come to climate change to spec up more and then look at the remaining 3 years.
Okay. Aware of time, so can we just two more comments? I think Councillor Honeywell and Councillor Rutland.
Sorry, Chair, I'm spoken yet.
Sorry, okay. So Councillor Richard Honeyman, then Councillor Rutland, then Councillor Olivia Honeyman.
Was want to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so obviously the survey's not statutory, as we know that anyway, so we haven't got to follow the results of the survey. Isn't that's correct, isn't it? So that's fine, that's good. We obviously committed there to the increase in the precept there, so again, that's the residents have specified that, but again, we don't have to do that. So we could just generally take it out of what we normally pay for in previous years, so we haven't got to basically increase it by 1% to get the money, but it depends how you want to budget it, isn't it, really, at the end of the day on that one. And also, just on the situation with we haven't, because it's relatively small amount, we haven't got to do the tender process, isn't it? So that's another reason why I did notice that, because it is small beer, isn't it, in that sense.
So we haven't gone through the tender process because we have time. Basically we have to tell East Sussex next week whether we're in or out. So we've done work behind the scenes to see if we can find a contractor who's interested in taking on just our verges. They're a very disparate set of verges. They're not together. It's not great just coming around with all your machines doing those bits of cuts. So we weren't even sure we could find someone who'd be happy to take it on. We have found someone, but I think they would expect it to be a contract. I'm not sure they'll be interested in doing a year.
I was going to mention that. It started a year, but obviously they won't know what to do on the first year, but after that it's a bit more...
Yeah, and I think with East Sussex sending out this email very short notice, lots of districts and lots of the parishes are actually considering what they're going to do, which will mean that we will be, if you like, in competition for time. And if we're saying we're just going out to you for a year, they may say, do you know what, we've got plenty of business from others. So I am concerned about the year. But if we make the contract loose and we talk early doors about the fact that we are going to want to, if you want to collect, that you want to collect, and that there's a development that we want to do around the verges, managing them, measuring them, etc., etc., I don't see why that can't be put in as part of that scope. And obviously we're going to ask for more cuts than the contract we're going into. That's also extra business for them. It's quite an attractive package.
It's a sliding scale, really, isn't it?
I can't have it.
All right. Who is next? Councillor Rutland?
I was just saying, looking at this financial appraisal, to go with 6 cuts with ESCC is 15,300. Doing it in-house is between 10 and 15. It costs the same. But in-house, we would be controlling it.
But that would not be cut and collect, though, would it? That would be significantly more if you're collecting because of time. So we have to factor that in.
But we would still have a lot more control over it. So I think in-house is probably the way to go.
Councillor
I think that way we are controlling the whole thing.
It's the last question.
Seems to be everyone else has sort of said what I was going to say, obviously not as eloquently as Councillor Bristol. I just wanted to add in here, obviously we've been told by residents about adding the east side of Arundel Road between Headland Avenue and Sutton Road. This particular resident did contact me a couple of weeks ago about the fact that whilst one side of the road nice and tidy and the other side of the road is quite a mess. I have to admit, I haven't looked to see if it's one of the wildlife verges, but he's raised the points that he's already put in an email to me anyway. So it would be good if that's possibly to be added in as well. But I do think the self-delivery option is better because, you know, I was going to use the word control as well. We've got control of what's going on, but like Councillor Bristow said, we need to do specifications as to what guidelines we need to follow, and obviously safety is paramount when it comes to being able to see over the verges.
No one's going to compare that. Sorry, no one's going to care about that sound like we do. So.
So I think the most important thing is taking back control.
Absolutely.
Then we can be in charge of who we employ and what we're asking to do, because it's
Yeah.
going to be different season by season according to the advice and the response, the environmentalist response. So I think it's that initial decision that we've really got to get in order to empower officers who have to make some quick decisions, but it does have financial implications. And I think it's important, that's why we discuss it. So we're being asked to approve the motion to self-deliver 4 verge cuts a year. Do we want to change that?
Yes.
I think we probably do, don't we?
Yes.
Because A, it hasn't been voted on. Do we want to give officers some degree of flexibility over a timescale? How would you like to?
I was just going to say, could we have the motion that, you know, we approve whether it's 4 cuts or whatever for the first year, with the whole issue to be looked at by climate change and finance and come together after the first year, and then this committee or full council decide how we move forward after that, and we sort of consider everything in the round.
Yes.
Okay. Can it be a
So,
one-year
can someone word that
contract?
better than I have, please?
Did you ask Bolleswood and Countryman's, which is who you never use?
I can't comment.
Yeah, I don't think we can talk about specific detail.
Why not? It's because the conversations we've had so far are exploratory, and people we've spoken to have asked that we don't share any commercial details, subject to the decision we make tonight, and then when that's made, we're then able to go further.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Reid.
Could I just say that I would thought that option C stands up as it is. Town Council takes on responsibility to deliver urban grass cutting in this area. This must include a minimum of 2 cuts over the course of the year. That gives us carte blanche to do as many cuts as we want, as far as I can see. And as long as, Councillor Rutland quite rightly points out, as long as we share the information with our residents as to what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that in the first year we might have 6 cuts, but it depends how the grass grows or whatever, our contractor will be, presumably, if we explain quietly to them that this is what may happen, their contract may say, I was going to ask you actually, Louise, would it be for a minimum of 5 years for this contractor, or would they, do you think, do a 2-year contract initially to see how it went?
So I was going to suggest a 3+2, so
Okay.
3 years,
Oh, I
and
think you
if we
did say
like
that.
them,
Sorry.
yeah,
I
if
think
we
you did
like
say that.
them, we keep them going, and if it hasn't worked and we're not liking what's happened to the verges, we end the contract and go again.
You did point that, so sorry.
Okay, so can I bring this to some sort of resolution and say that we're asked to approve the motion for Seaford Town Council to self-deliver a minimum of 2 cuts over a contract period of 2 years with the subject
3+2, yeah.
3 years subject to 2 further years, working in collaboration with the Climate Change Subcommittee and other experts as required. Does that feel okay?
Can I just ask, if you're going to issue a 3-year contract, how are you going to bring them into line to incorporate the Climate Change Committee? I think 3 years is way too long. I think it needs to be a 1-year contract with a view. During that year, the Climate Change Committee feed into a 4-year contract from there. And if that's not desirable to anybody, the chance of getting a 4-year contract after a year, then there's something wrong.
So I think because we want to work in partnership with whoever's cutting the verges, we would write within that there is going to be initially the cuts, and then we're going to come in with the way we want that managed. And the first cut needs to happen quite promptly. I think you've got no cut made, but whether there's a cut sort of before or after, this timescale's a little bit against us. It's whether you believe we can go into a contract and actually then control the level of cuts the way the land is maintained, or whether you feel you have to have a separate contract to do that.
Just going to point out from a practical perspective, again, so the cuts, I think from memory most of Seaford was July and October this last season. But if we do move to a cut and collect, or we want to move to a cut and collect scheme in the future, we would need to have a contractor who's capable of delivering that. So whether you have to select for that possibility at the start or after, we would say maybe 2 years is a happy medium. 2 plus 3 rather than 3 plus 2.
We seem to be having another round of discussion.
It's still not very clear, see, Chair, that's the reason.
Right.
Just on number 2.4.
Whether we have an initial contract for 3 years or an initial contract
Well,
for
no,
2
I'm
years.
interested in what the county council's still going to be doing. They're still going to be doing the special wildlife, the official wildlife areas, aren't they? That's how I read it on 2.4. Is that correct? That's what you said earlier.
Sorry.
The special wildlife areas,
Yeah.
they're designated properly. They're still involved doing that, so that the contractor we get don't do that.
No.
Or they'll do the new contractor, do the whole lot, everything, including those special areas.
No. So the special wildlife areas stay with
County council
Yeah.
and whatever contractor they use, yeah. So that's on 2.4. So we'll still have them doing that special bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It's just a standard, bog standard, normal verges, but obviously making it, but obviously they're aware of doing a bit more detail around junctions and things, keeping it lower, aren't they?
So they should have been cut in June last year,
Yeah.
but they couldn't because of the rain.
Yeah.
It was very wet, and then they didn't have the equipment, and so actually it should have been. And this is something else by doing it ourselves. It does give us some opportunities to speak to the public and have some control over when the cuts are actually happening.
Because we can't do it ourselves here. We haven't got the kit at the town council.
No.
Okay.
And that's what I like, is the flexibility of this.
Yeah, but long as you made that clear that the county can still do the special wildlife areas. So that's, thank you.
The last person to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to speak to Councillor Dubasik on what you said. And in respect of what Louise said, I think to try and expect a contractor just to do 1 year and work with them in the way that we want to work, I don't think they're going to be particularly bothered, because I think it was only a year's contract. If you want to invest time with somebody and get their trust and get them to see that you trust them, and that we're going to work together on trying to make this a really good project, I think you've got to give them a reasonable amount of time. And then we get to know each other, and we respect each other, and we work together, and then actually it might work for 5 years very well. I think 1 year, as Louise said already, people aren't going to be totally interested. These people work on big time frames, and they want to know they've got surety of income and everything like that for their machinery. I really think we've got to invest a little bit in our contractor.
Right, I'm going to cut this. The motion is going to be to self-deliver a minimum of 2 cuts over the course of a year for 3 years, with possible renewal for a further 2. Is that clear enough? Mm-hmm. Okay. Can I have a proposal for that, please? Councillor Meek, and the second, Councillor Olivia Hanneman. All those in favour? Thank you. Those abstaining?
Did we say it's a cut and collect?
We haven't said cut and collect. We haven't specified that.
Climate change looking into it.
With climate change overseeing this.
Well, not overseeing, but I think we need to bring in.
Consulting.
Yeah.
So it's a 2 plus 3. There's 3 plus 2. Minimum of 2 cut and collect. Yeah. Minimum of 2 cut and collect.
You don't want collect added in because it's not in the motion at all at the moment.
Minimum of 2 cuts.
I would like it added in, but I thought we were having this period to look at the best way of achieving this over the long term. So we weren't going to go going back, because we were talking about there being more cuts than initially. So
it's the minimum. That's the thing. We could have more.
yeah.
It's just the minimum, so that we're trying to tie this into the papers and what the public have been asked to talk about. Is anyone against the motion?
I'm sorry, if it doesn't include, I should have said that. I won't propose this if it's not with collect. I think that's absolutely paramount. We've got to collect.
Yes, I think I would agree with that. It has to be cut off.
I
A
can't-
minimum of 2.
I'm sorry, we didn't go through it properly.
So, again, it is 3 years plus 2 addition, a minimum of 2 cut and collect, working with the climate change subcommittee and other local experts and interest groups. Is that right?
No, I'm not happy. So if for example, you do 4 in a given year, 2 of those might not necessarily be collect. If it's relatively short, you wouldn't
No,
necessarily...
they don't have to be. It's a
But two
minimum
of them will be
of 2
collected.
cut and collect
Yeah.
with more possible. But
That's
it's
fine.
the minimum. That's
The minimum
the
is
minimum.
going to be
Okay.
collected.
With
All right.
more as required.
More as required, working in collaboration
In
with the other
consultation
experts.
with the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Have we got that? Sorry.
Would you mind saying it again?
Right, okay. So we are
Yeah,
self-deliver,
that financially quite a lot.
a contract for 3 years, subject to renewal for a further 2, with a minimum of 2 cut and collect per year, with on a sliding scale, with possibility of more, working in collaboration with the climate
Consultation.
consultation with the climate change subcommittee and other local experts and interested parties. Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right, now, can we have a vote again, just to make sure
Absolutely.
everybody's absolutely certain that they know what they've talked about? And what, okay? Right, those abstaining? And those against? Councillor Dubois. Right, okay, let's get on with this. Right, okay, the next is agenda item 9, a draft concession policy.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That's item 8.
Sorry?
That's item 8. Just with 7.
Have I missed
Page
one?
46 then.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right, this is Town Council public toilets. It comes back to who's and lose.
Shall I, just a quick overview. So we now have to clean our own toilets. Lewis District, I know it's a unfortunate way of phrasing it, Lewis District were the contractors cleaning our toilets. They ceased cleaning them in October. We have been working with cleaners from October until, we're going to go through till March. We need to put out the contractor tender so that we can actually get a formal relationship with a toilet contractor. We are also looking at the South Street. It's a sort of an overview of all the toilets in one go. So we're looking at South Street toilets and the permission for us to consider its use, its cost and its future, and thinking about the amount of emails we have from the public about the state of our toilets, the building state of our toilets. We're getting to the point that cleaning it is not necessarily making the toilets look clean. The deep cleans are tricky because when you use the machines, the tiles come off the wall. So there's 2 sets of toilets we're saying we need to consider: South Street and the Salts. And the Salts has a different problem where we have a lot of vandalism there, and that's because there is a communal area inside. So we're suggesting you might want to think about refurbing those so that you don't have those communal areas. And I've got a figure there for the last cost of vandalism. We're always down there spending money on stopping the vandalism. And then there's the overarching contract, which is to go into a relationship with a contract cleaner to clean all of our toilets. And within that, we want to think about something we didn't have with Lewis, which is a clean which reflects higher usage in the summer and lower usage in the winter. And we haven't had that before, and I think that will help, especially when the beach is heaving. That we, and within that contract, we want to also be able to call out extra cleans for when there's events, and again we didn't have that opportunity either. And then finally, we want to start looking at toilets at night, because we are suffering a lot of antisocial use in those toilets. So that's something else we'd add in either into the contract or put self-locking door mechanisms on. It's a complete look at toilets in one go.
Were we aware that Lewis Council were stopping the contract, or did they just leave us in the blue?
They have been struggling. They took their toilet cleaning in-house. The staff didn't go with the contract. They expected the staff to, and Lewis District has struggled to clean our toilets with the staff that they have. And I think that's why we had a little difficulty over the summer. And we did step in and commission extra cleaners from an outside company. Lewis couldn't offer us that. And then I think Lewis just got to the point where they looked at it and said, you know what, this isn't, we don't have the capacity.
Right. Any more questions, Councillor Bishop?
Can I just ask, with regard to the locking them overnight, I might be wrong, but I thought they were already locked overnight.
We have been locking them since we've had some big issues with some of the toilets. But we haven't come to you as councillors and said this is something we've had to do. So I wanted to put everything out there for you to make decisions.
Councillor Hunter.
Thank you. I was quite pleased that this is going to be going out for us to be able to talk about the different costings and everything with the toilets. I like the idea of the toilets being an exact time, but I do actually prefer if it's a human being doing it rather than a machine, just in case. Obviously with something like South Street toilets, is whether there's any way of finding out which toilets are the ones used the most. Because then that would help us to be able to decide whether we need to spend money or... So I think it needs to be, as you're doing, a full investigation, but knowing how many people do use it. Because every time I drive past, there's always somebody parked up, on the guys nipping in to go to the toilet. So there's a lot of people who go into there. So I'm quite pleased with this going on. So obviously we don't need to make a decision tonight, but we're just giving you permission to actually do the investigating. So that'll be really good. Thank you.
Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you. The budget here, the discussion we were just having earlier about Verge County, we're going to get some money back from, is it the county council? Do we get any money back from Lewis if we clean the toilets and clean them?
So the situation with the toilet cleaning was that we weren't actually paying Lewis at all.
It's for free.
We got what we paid for.
Yeah. Okay, that answers my question. We didn't have to spend a penny.
Yeah.
Consider yourself banished, Councillor.
This is a serious meeting, James.
Yes, you've noticed. Sorry, has anyone else got a comment to make? Councillor Honeyman and then Councillor Taylor.
Okay, I like the way you put close to place, then put some 1.14. In a lot of ways, I like to say like 300 metres, saying, you know, big or accurate, everything's close to each other in Seaford, so that's not being accurate enough. That's just a point, really. Obviously, when the contracts on Lewis and the Seafords were done at the same time, all the toilets would be closed and open at the same time, so which made sense, didn't it, to do that. Now you've got a situation where, yes, they do need to be looked at. It would be a shame to close South Street. I'd be reluctant, otherwise there's only one effectively in the town centre left, if that was the case. And also, if you're thinking of the old town hall, maybe modernising that and expanding that slightly, effectively the set of toilets next door. So that, otherwise they have there about toilets, aren't there, with the old town hall. There's no extra toilets inside the old town hall as far as I know. So they can't really be combined up, can they, in a lot of ways? I think that would be major work, wouldn't it?
So one of the options is to consider, because the town hall lease is coming up, the concession is coming up. So one of the, again, this is why we brought this now, to try and tie things up. So if the decision is made going forward that you do want to say close the toilets, then you would link the toilets and the town hall together as one offer commercially.
you can do that. You can't put a hole in there, can you, as such? But we haven't got as far as that.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's, I'd be happy to, I'd support that option to see where you can go with that, if that's what the council wants to, the way forward and that side of things. And just finally, just the variable closure and openings is good now, depending on the time of year, and if there's events and so on, so you can be a bit more flexible compared to what we had in the past. So, thank you.
Councillor Taylor?
Slightly different question. Having driven here past 3 vandalised bus shelters tonight, I'm thinking about CCTV and toilets and bus shelters. Sorry, bus shelters obviously not on our agenda tonight, but it's the same issue. It's antisocial behaviour. So has that been discussed? I mean, do we have CCTV anywhere?
Yeah, we do have CCTV on the sorts,
Right.
but the real problem with the CCTV is unless you're monitoring it, or you're actually keeping that stream live so that you check all the time, then it's not working as a deterrent at all.
Right.
The real problem with the sorts is the communal inside space. Pouring down with rain, they all go and meet in the girls' toilets.
Yeah, I understand that point. It's just was curious about this business. I mean, yeah. So it's about the reason that CCTV is not proving to be satisfactory is because we don't have the capacity to actually look at it.
To watch
and then
it,
it's
yeah.
to watch it, isn't it?
Councillor Bristol and Councillor Reid.
Just make a point about the South Street. I mean, I know, it's certainly a consideration, but the town with the population of Seaford and the visitors that we obviously get a lot of visitors on the seafront, but we do get quite a lot of people coming into town, and I think the number of toilets, publicly available toilets compared to population, if we were to get rid of South Street, would be pretty low, especially when you sort of take into account, other towns. Usually they have supermarkets with toilets and things. We don't. Morrison's doesn't have that facility here. I think, and also with the vandalism, when Place Lane's closed, as it quite often is, then where do people go? I mean, I was out on Saturday and I saw people, they were actually struggling to get into Place Lane, which we've contacted the district about separately, but then people were like, oh, quick, we'll go to South Street then, we're just about to hang on and get there. So I think it's really good that we're looking at it all together, and I would just say that, just having a handful of toilets in the whole of the centre of Seaford, to me, I would feel quite uneasy about that.
Thank you. It would be good to have a round ballpark figure for what it would cost for the salts to get refurbished inside to separate cubicles, and maybe to get a program on what South Street would cost to refurbish inside. I think it's a very good idea to lump the two together with the old town hall and see what that will do. But I mean, at the moment we've got lots of old people go for tea, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and thank goodness the toilet's probably right next door for them. Otherwise they've got a long way to go. I don't know about anybody else, but when I have a cup of coffee, you have to go. I think these will be good things to find out. But I'd rather agree that we perhaps don't want to get rid of toilet facilities for the public in the town centre. We've got a market there, on Saturdays now, South Street, thank you.
With the salts, are there disabled toilet facilities down in the salts as well?
Yes, there's one.
There's one, because it's been a long time since I've gone down there, but my wife and I used to run the cafe in the salts back in 2012, and I know we had quite a lot of disabled residents complaining about access into the salts, because you can only come down one end, the ramp at the other end sort of steps at the bottom of it. And with the experience that we've gone through with the Martello and the refurbishment of that, I would be inclined to say, well, let's see how that finishes out and tops out, and maybe get that contractor to come up with some ideas for refurbishing the salts in the same way, and maybe check if the Changing Places facility at the Martello is the success we think it's going to be. Is that facility something that we should consider having at the salts as a disabled facility? Because while there is a small disabled facility there, I don't think it was very big, was it? It's not, depends on how disabled you are. You can get a wheelchair in, but not a lot else. And some people are more disabled than that. So maybe see how well the changing places facility works and duplicate that up at the other end of the sorts with a refurbishment similar to the Martello, depending on how that drops out. Just a idea.
Probably a discussion of
Oh yeah, it'll go on for years, like the last one did. But we'll start somewhere.
You mentioned the vandalism was due to the congregation in the toilets. And the skate park is very well used by young people, and I'm assuming it's kind of them that are congregating. We don't know. But on the project plan 71, it says skate park shelter replacement.
Skate park.
Skate park shelter, replacement shelter, but I don't think there is a shelter there, is there?
That,
do you mean
there isn't currently a
No.
shelter there, but there used to be when we had our old skate park, not the current.
Oh, right,
replacing
okay.
the old one.
So I wondered if you were putting new shelter in, would that stop the congregation because they've got somewhere to shelter?
No, I mean, it's really important to look at the source in the whole, rather than just try and pick off bits of it. So we have looked very much at, just in the short term, in the changing rooms by the cricket club. There's problems there. There's problems all the way around there. So this is because this is coming to you with a, do you want us to go ahead and do some work on it? Then we can wrap that in, and also there's a sort strategy, and that this would feed into the sort strategy. So it's pulling all the threads together so that you're making the decisions as a big picture rather than small details and spending your money patching and fixing.
With regards to the salt strategy, sorry, at the Edinburgh Road end of the salts, that end, the ramp that comes down, obviously it's not very wheelchair friendly because of the steps at the bottom. And I remember a very good friend of mine, his sister had cerebral palsy, she was in a motorised wheelchair, and she was very, very vocal about complaining about the rights of disabled people with the Disability Discrimination Act, and the fact that the access there was so bad that do we, if we don't address things like that, are we tripping up in contravention of the DDA and things like that? So is that something we should be factoring in, better access at all ends of the salts and better facilities in there, etc. While it's not necessarily on the agenda, it is something we need to be more aware of.
Can we note that? But I think we need to move on. There was one last comment before I take the vote.
Yeah, I was just going to make a quick comment. I appreciate the need to look at this holistically. And I know we've spoken in terms of when we've been starting on the tack of temporary toilets, the Seaford Barn and the Crouch, but I think the Crouch could possibly go either way. And I just want to ensure that, you know, that's captured, that the Crouch will be looked at in terms of possibility of need for toilets in there, whether it's through this or through the other work stream, so it's there somewhere.
Let me reply to that. We have if you in the project list, a paper coming to March Community Services talking about toilets for the Crouch. So
I think it's part of a wider process. Okay. Right, so I'm going to suggest, in the interest of time, that we take items 1 to 5 together. So, right, we happy about that? So to note the requirement to issue a tender for a clean contract for town toilets, including increasing frequency of summer and weekends, to instruct officers to proceed in accordance with financial regulations of the town council, to agree that public toilets are locked in the evening with the exact time and manner in which they are locked to be determined by officers based on the recommended practice, to instruct officers to proceed with costings and options regarding South Street toilets, and to instruct officers to create and present a project plan back to the committee for the refurbishment of the salts toilets. Are you happy for these to all be taken together? Can I have a proposal, please?
Sorry, I'm not happy for them to be taken together.
Okay, what would you like, councillor?
Because I don't agree with 1, 2 and 3.
Right, we will go through them. We will have to go through them separately then. Right, so first, to note the requirement to issue a tender for a cleaning contract. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Honeyman, seconder, Councillor Meek. All those in favour? Thank you. Those abstaining? And those against?
I'm only against it because it's not got any detail in it.
Right, okay. So we'll put you down here. Voting against, right. 2, to instruct officers to proceed in accordance with the financial regulations of the Town Council. Proposer? Councillor Rutland, seconder. Councillor Meek. All those in favour? Thank you. Abstaining? Voting against. 3, to agree to the public toilets to be locked in the evening exact manner to be determined by officers based on recommended practice. Proposer, Councillor Honeyman, seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Thank you. Abstain?
Because I don't know what recommended practice is. It's not being discussed and it's not in the paper.
So Councillor Dubat is abstaining. Anyone voting against? Okay. Instruct officers to proceed with costings and options regarding South Street toilets. Proposer, Councillor Bristow, seconder, Councillor Honeyman. All those in favour?
I'll agree to it.
Right, okay, unanimous. Abstain? And those against? Okay. And finally, to instruct officers to create and present a project plan back to committee for the refurbishment of Salts toilets.
I would just add the inclusion of disabled facilities.
Yes, okay, including disabled services. Yeah, okay, happy to add that. Proposer, Councillor Rutland, seconder, Councillor Bristow. Those in favour? Thank you. Those abstaining? And those against? Thank you. Agenda item 9 is about the draft concessions policy. Any comments? We don't have Helen Bitts here, who's the responsible officer for this.
She's in Qatar.
So that could be a little bit difficult.
You're making it worse.
Having a well-earned break after Seaford Magic. And I think it's worth just saying on record that thank you to Helen, should she come back and watch this, for the work she did for Seaford Magic.
I'd like to second that as well as being taken around everywhere and how lovely array of coats.
Thank you.
Noted.
Thank you. I think what's important about this concessions policy is we have brought it up to date. It was a little bit sad in that it didn't give us much opportunity to work with new businesses and to demonstrate to the public that we have used a matrix which can be available for anyone to look at. So there's a new scoring matrix which actually considers all sorts of aspects of the concession applications and importantly is not weighted in favour of just the money that's being offered. What we want to do is generate a varied offer on the seafront with the concessions and something that's a little different, that's exciting and that attracts people through the town to visit the seafront. So we put in a scoring system that will be scoring people against, and we're also looking at within this the footprint so that it's a fairer allocation to the concessions and just putting in some more regulation for us to get involved and engage in terms of the community and reviews and the plastics policy for plastic free seafood.
It struck me this was very much in line with our strategic plan. We want seafood to be different and not just concentrating on money.
Very different to 2012.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Chair. I've got some serious misgivings about this. On the face of it, I mean, notwithstanding what Louise has just said, when you look at what is actually being asked of concessions, one thing I wanted to know was, is this really a device mainly to decide when you've got maybe the offer of a concession, which may have quite a distinct brief to it, and you may have a whole lot of people tendering, it's a way for you to kind of get through the dross and to decide who you want. Because the trouble with that is that it seems to encapsulate everything else with it, and I can understand the reason for it, but it seems to me that it's going to preclude a lot of potential businesses. Because if you're immediately looking at their financial viability, what if they're a young person who's just starting out and wants to try and present you with an idea, and the trouble is they've got no track record, they've got no accountability, they've got no previous history, how they're going to be discounted on about 3 or 4 immediate strengths because they've got no. I mean, a lot of these businesses, they won't even have any accounts. Some of these, I mean, some of our concessions used to be just selling bits of jewellery they made. They're not going to have lodged accounts.
So we're not looking for that. What we're.
But that's the way it appears like that when I read it. Do you see what I mean? It appears, or what I put was draconian and overbearing. I'm sure we don't want it to be like that, and I'm sure it's to make it absolutely watertight. But it appears quite that people have to be very accountable, and I'm wondering if it's going to drive some potential businesses away because they're just not going to have that previous history or the references or the accounts or whatever it might be.
So it's really helpful, your comment actually, because the very thing we didn't want to happen is what you suggested by reading what we put here. So I'm wondering whether there's something about the way it's read. What we were hoping was to justify against the person who bids the most money, because that may not be in our best interest. So to do that, we need to weight fairly all the other factors. And what we're hoping is that comes out, I think in the past it has been done on who offers the most. And we're just concerned about the diversity on the seafront, about the using those offers to develop the economic benefits to Seaford residents. So by actually being really clear that we'll look at your financial viability, but that doesn't mean that you have to have massive accounts. That means you've got a paragraph on how your business might work, and we can use that to support that scoring. But it's not who's going to be the strongest applicant, who's got the most money. That's what we're trying to move against and away from.
Okay.
And then using this matrix, if we are questioned, we are really clear, and we can then share without the names, this is the matrix we're using. If you're applying, have a look at it and look at how the scoring works. And if you're applying and you're not very used to this, speak to us, we'll help you.
Okay.
Any more comments?
I was just taking into account A, what you've just said, and B, what James has said. It's a bit like a credit report. And if you don't use a credit card, you've got no mortgage and your house is paid off,
Absolutely.
you've got plenty of assets, but all credit. So these are all factors that are taken into account. So when you apply for a tender, the factors that will be taken into account when evaluating your tender is this, and this. It is not solely on the amount of the tender, but it will take into account innovative new businesses, exciting new ideas, innovation, enthusiasm, and so on. But equally, because we have to be fiscally responsible as well, all of these factors will combine your concession score instead of a credit score.
Yeah.
Does that sound all right?
Can I just come back? Just to say, I didn't realise that I thought we offered a concession and there was a price for it. I didn't realise people bid for it.
Oh yeah.
Is it a sealed bid?
This is very usual.
Really?
Yeah, very usual. And
Was that what happened here at View?
Yeah,
that's unique.
Yes, that's right.
They offered a.
No, I mean, well, it's a slightly different process.
I'm sure. You just what I mean. I didn't realise that. I thought my stance was, if you're offering a concession and you're going to say the concession it's going to cost you £10,000 a year, it shouldn't matter to us how much money the person is, or if they haven't got any money, or actually if their turnover is rubbish, if they're prepared to pay the concession and they're providing a public good to the town, it wouldn't matter if their accounting was rubbish. I mean, I used to run a gardening business, and sometimes I wasn't earning much money at all. But I enjoyed working with the people I worked for, and I kind of just about broke even, and there was all sorts of other reasons I did it. And that's the same, and that's what we ought to be. And we would encourage that, because, you know, because it's all for the public good, because we're running a community here, not a business.
Yes.
You know,
And
Well, a
that's,
little of both.
but in a business-like way.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right,
Sorry.
okay. So, we're asked to note the contents of the report. Can I answer?
Sorry.
Do you want to go first, Christina?
Councillor Bristol.
On page 53, we've got variety and site ownership. There's one thing which concerned me here. I get that we want to try and encourage diversity, but I'm just thinking perhaps of particularly one concession holder who we've got at the moment in several locations. I'm just wondering how that's going to work in practice, and is it going to actually restrict some local businesses quite a lot? And also when the mission statement, where we're talking about create diverse commercial offering, provides, I would say, sustainably operated businesses in their sustainably minded, because I think we do need to align it quite well with our sustainability ambitions. But yeah, just a bit of clarification on the different concession owners. Or Councillor Duggan?
Are you going to answer Christina first?
so, yes. Sorry, I missed. So the question is how we make sure we have variety?
No, I was just wondering, you know, the variety in general I think is quite a good thing, but I was thinking how that would be applied in practice. I mean, for example, I can think of one company who already has several of our concessions, so would that deter them from renewing in the future, for example? Would it restrict some local businesses?
Yes, because what I think we'd be looking for is Seaford Town Council's offer to be a jumping off point for businesses and to help grow that economic diversity within the town. So using those assets to enable new businesses, interesting ideas to start, rather than using it as a cash cow, if you like, for businesses that are really offering the same thing again and again and again. And we want the tourists to come down to the seafront, to spend their money, to visit the shops, and you do that by creating that movement through. And at the moment, we do have very similar offerings from in a number of venues, without that sort of using perhaps as local as we'd like.
So just to check, you wanted the mission statement amended slightly?
Yeah.
It's providing local sustainably operated businesses.
Yeah.
If we could just put that as the amendment in the mission statement.
Good.
Councillor Duggan?
Please, if I may. Could this be numbered? I'm referring to page 55, paragraph licensing events and health and safety. What do you mean by additional licences, please?
So, for instance, Skip held an event where they needed a licence to do an evening thing on the seafront. And what we're doing is making sure, because whilst we're relaxing the application framework to say, come and see us, let's hear from you, we also have tightened up the controls we have, so that if things are not working, we've got the ability to say, I'm really sorry you've breached these terms, or I'm really sorry, we said if you didn't operate within these hours, then we will terminate your contract. So we've done the carrot and stick. Do come and work with us, but actually you need to follow the rules. And one of our concerns is that people would apply for alcohol licences, we don't get notified. So
this is what happened in the last administration with the salts, wasn't it?
Yes, we don't get notified. So by putting that clause in, we actually require any concession holder to come to us first, which means it gives you as councillors an opportunity to have a view on that. I want to stop the slow drift of what we manage, and I want to bring it back to this is what we're offering, this is what you voted for, and this is this type of Seaford that you're looking after.
Because we don't want to repeat that debacle last year, do we?
There isn't anything in this policy that says that concession applications will come back to this committee or that additional licences will come back to this committee.
No, so with this is also a legal document, which we haven't put in here because we haven't changed it, which actually outlines all their responsibilities. So in terms of the details you're asking me about, we don't know what's going to come forward yet. So I haven't wanted to specifically write anything down without knowing. So if once we've got this matrix and we've got it through and we do the first evaluations, then they will come back. We're looking to come back to committee in March. Some of them need to come back by then for you to have a look at what it is that we're looking at. We wouldn't want to make any decisions without consulting.
So you're going to bring concession applications back to this committee?
So we'll do the evaluation, depending on operational timelines. This is the other problem. They don't link in with when your committees are. So it may be that we bring it back saying we've done the evaluation, this is what we're recommending, which way are we going, or...
Sorry, is there two different things where you're thinking about the matrix and what bits we put into the matrix rather than the concession itself?
No. So
you're saying each concession you would like to come back to committee for you to approve?
Is that practical?
It's not practical because of the way the contracts work. Yeah. We expect to do an update every year on those concessions, and then that would be an opportunity.
Well, I think you need to change the timings of either the committee or the concessions going forward for renewal so that they can fit in with this committee. Because I think it's up to us as councillors what we decide goes on the seafront.
Is that practical?
I'm just going to put a little suggestion here, which might not be right.
Yeah.
But it's whether it is, if that's what yours is, whether any concessions get covered by the chair and deputy chair as a way around it. If yourselves, deputy chair of the community services, are then discussed, then we haven't got to worry about the timelines.
I think we're slightly across purposes here, because the purpose of agreeing this policy is to provide then officers under their delegated authority to implement it. So you're deciding the policy, then the officers will implement it. Yes, the policy talks about wanting to create greater variety. Well, on a regular, annual, whatever basis, you'll be reported to about what concessions we have, what they're all doing, how long they're lasting for, blah, blah, blah. So you'll be able to still steer that without having to then sign off every single concession. Because again, these are for the seafront concessions. The financial value of them is very small in reality. It's not something that would be appropriate to bring back to a committee like this if you've set a clear policy and steer for your officers to implement. And this report is designed to give that policy and steer.
Yeah, I mean, because it's the licensing, obviously, that's my problem, and I wouldn't want officers to be making that decision. So I think that's a good suggestion that the chair and or the deputy are involved in the decision making.
For licensing, I don't see a problem with that at all. When licence is submitted, then we can easily, because we have to consider it, we have to do all the risk assessments, so actually it'd be quite helpful to have your views, because if you are against it, we don't have to do any work. We just go back and say no.
Yeah, and the licences round did come back to the committee last time for that very reason. And so, so licences, because again, and that's because what happened there, what would happen again in the future, is that if we are the landowner, we are consulted for a licensing application by the district council, and that's what happened in this case. So any of our concessions, if anyone wants to have a license, we have to be consulted by the district council before they make the decision. So that is an exceptional thing, not the more regular actions that are described. But the purpose of setting this policy is provide that steer, so then the implementation can happen.
We probably do need to clarify, Sharon's just pointed out that there's a difference between alcohol and music licence, both of which need approval, but I think you're talking about alcohol licences. Yeah.
Amplified, yeah.
So how do we want to amend this to bring this into line with the discussion?
Could I point something out as well? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want Richard to go first?
Councillor Hannon.
Okay, right, so specifically, I think the town clerk mentioned it. Can it be a bit more specific where this is actually used? You talked about just the seafront, I don't know, concessions, can that be a bit more specific? So that's where it is. I know you talk about ST fixed and non-fixed assets, but it doesn't, I can't see where it says the seafront.
I didn't mean just the seafront, but I was thinking, for example, that you think about all the concessions that we have.
Yeah.
Most not seafront anyway, not all of them. But this policy is being tailored towards the size of arrangement that is and the sort of financial value that it has. Yeah? So that's what this policy is for.
I might be able to add a bit more to that, if you're okay with it. So we have the seafront and we have South Kilbarn as our main concession areas, but we are also have been delegated Consent Street licensing by Lewes District Council. So for example, we've got the street market, which we approved, and we also have just approved the traders to have their markets and their late night shopping and road closures, and supporting the consent for them to trade in those streets. With regards to the alcohol and licensing and the market licence, we did bring reports to council to ask councillors if they were happy with those licences to be approved. So we have been bringing those to council for your approval.
Can I just mention one other thing? I don't know if it's a good or bad idea.
Let's make it brief.
I'll make it brief. Okay, there's obviously a more legalistic form behind all this, you know, but is there an intermediate online form or another form which people can basically see if it's good or bad? I don't know. Because looking at this, it looks fairly dry, doesn't it? I don't know if there's anything they can, there's an appendix or something which they can work to, or something online.
Is this about helping somebody applying for concession to fill it in and understand the rules?
Well, I mean, to be honest, most people are probably involved with this will know roughly what they're doing anyway. They got to this stage, they probably will understand why they're going for a concession. But if it's someone who's brand new to it, well, maybe it does need a bit more. But I'm sort of I'm not.
We have had people already, we've got a beginning of a list of new businesses. So I think this will help make sure that we make those choices. I think the real power in this paper for you as a committee is the matrix. And what I would suggest is that we try it, and then you know who comes in. We can look at the matrix if you want to look and see have we weighted it quite right in terms of and then maybe revise the matrix going forwards. Until we've actually used it, you don't know how effective it will be in picking the right concessions.
So I find can it be reviewed a bit more sooner compared to some of the old policies? That's what I was trying to say again, if that's the case.
Can it be called a concessions application policy? Because it is about the application form that you're talking about, rather than the concessions policy that applies to what happens to concessions across the town. This is an application process. So if it's called application policy, I'm happy with that.
We have it with both.
It's not really an application.
One is dealing with applications. The situation we had in the previous administration was where an existing concession holder, unbeknownst to the council, went and applied for an alcohol licence And then the residents told the council that these people who had applied for the licence, they objected to it, and the council didn't know. And of course it was completely in contravention to the concession that they held. So even if they had got the licence, they wouldn't have been allowed to use it. But their argument would have been, well, we've got the licence, so we should use it. And there was an extraordinary...
That wasn't really quite what happened. I don't think public discussion of that matter.
Anyway, okay,
But that's about two levels of council.
Yes.
Allowing people to do things that are mutually
Yes.
incompatible, and it's about communication. It's not really about this.
I think this is a great document, and having had a concession myself back in, 10 years ago now, or 12 years ago actually, compared to what I went through then, this is streets ahead and much, much better.
Good, we'll leave it there. So, we're asked to note the contents of the report. Can I have a proposal, please? Councillor Mead and second Councillor Honeyman. Everyone in favour? And those abstaining? Anyone against? Okay. Now, to recommend the full council adopts the conceptual policy as presented, subject to the amendment of the mission statement.
Yeah.
And there was something else. Was something else? Let's just go with that at the moment, yeah. So to the adoption of the concessions policy, subject to the discussion.
Well, we're going to have it reviewed after a year or two, because I don't know how long the policies are normally reviewed after, but I think that's what council.
Yeah, that's what I prefer it been done sooner than later.
So with a regular
I
review
think that would be a regular review of policies.
With this, with the let's
just go with that. And I think it's really just part of the regular review of the council, how the council works. So can I have a proposer for item 2?
Sorry, are we also, sorry to be paying, are we sort of adding on about the, in starting, working with the chair and deputy chair for the license doing as well?
Yes, subject to the discussions that we've had. So that's about the mission statement and the review by the chair or deputy chair of the community services. Yes, and that's that alcohol and music.
Tens licenses.
Right, it covers. So do I have a proposal for that? Councillor Briscoe and a second Councillor Hanley. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Those abstaining? Anyone against? Right. So, item 10, bonding steps concessions, the creation of a wellbeing hub. Helen has been busy and we thank her in her absence. But this is a proposal for bonding steps concessions with a focus on health and wellbeing. Are you talking about
Yeah, so this is just to, what we're trying to do is bring anything new that we're thinking about to this committee to give you an opportunity to have a view on it. And what we wanted to do, one instead where the beach huts are, the beach hut owners have asked that things are maybe slightly quieter, and their understanding of having those huts was that it would be a tranquil area. There is a big demand for wellness and well-being, and we've got the sauna there at the moment, which is doing really well and very popular. And what we wanted to suggest is that we skew applicants for that area on our matrix towards well-being and wellness. And there's lots of examples where people use shared space to offer all sorts of treatments. So we wanted to look at exploring whether that's something we could offer in that space.
And of course there are the early morning bathers as well.
Absolutely.
So it's all sort of self-defining, isn't it? Any further questions or comments?
No.
Okay. So we're asked to approve the health and wellbeing focus for concessions on.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I think it's a really good idea, really nice idea. In practice, what does wellbeing and health mean? Are we going to have a nail bar down there, for example? I know we want to have a quiet area. We're going to consider all the various sort of things. The sauna that's there is very popular and it's great. I know the bathers go to it. how does that stack up sustainability-wise? And with the electrics that are down there, or not down there, could we be doing something from perhaps through climate change to look at sustainably power that area if we've got a limit on the capacity of the cable down there, and we'll try and put that in. So I think, to me, I think it's a really good area, but just a bit of clarity about the sort of health and wellbeing, as we're talking about cycle rental, which would be amazing to have somewhere there, but then there were concerns about the sort of busyness of people cycling, as actually that area is one rare section of the prom which is no cycling. So I'm just wanting to understand a little bit more about how it would work in practice. And for example, we've got this scoring matrix before, which I think is quite robust.
So
But
it
how
would
would
still,
we robust
it would
come
still
on to
meet
that?
the same scoring matrix. But what we wanted to do was put out the idea that we are looking at developing that space, and we wanted your views on that. So we can't tell you what's out there yet because we haven't gone out and asked the public, but we know because of the sauna that we have interest from concessions saying, well, what else can we offer? What can we offer next to the sauna? We add on business. But we wanted first to get your views if you liked the idea, and then we would go off and look at what comes in.
Could I also answer something? With the sustainability, the concession at the moment that's providing the teas and coffees is completely run off grid. So that is something that we are not looking to introduce any more generators for concessions along the seafront. And also with regards to something like a now bar, it's obviously not plastic free.
Okay, any further comments or questions before we take a vote? Okay, so we're asked to approve the health and wellbeing focus concessions in the Forest area. And the proposer, Councillor Taylor, and the seconder, Councillor Rutland. All in favour? It's unanimous. So nobody assenting or abstaining. Okay. Right, finally, money always comes to the end of money, doesn't it? This is to present the community services draft budget and to comment on it for recommending to finance and general purposes. I have been through this. I have had a detailed meeting with Lisa Clark and Andy Beams, and we've looked at various issues such as the crypt and the cost of the toilets and various other things. So I've asked my questions in a privileged way, but this is your chance to ask questions.
Say, Chair, just two things before, because I know time is against us. One is that, again, well, three things. Well, many of them against us. I think it's a brilliant report. Two, again, as with the general explanation report, the RFO has deliberately made this into a variance report. So it's a variance report against this year's budget. So you understand the changes and see whether to help you understand what it all means, really. So, and then three, just to say that what we will do now is if there's any changes to this, we will note them, and then by passing the motion, you'll be agreeing those changes, if that makes sense, and an agreed budget will go forward. And one change we have already kind of agreed earlier in this meeting is money for grass collection. So is it 15,000 we're putting in for that?
So it's going to be more.
Well, you said it was double the cost of the other thing that's 15,000.
Yeah, but
that meant that was
so I
another
went for
15,000.
4 cuts. So we're talking, if we're talking about the 2 cuts, or do we want to go for 4 on the list?
Well, sorry, is that complicating it? In the report on the cuts, you put a cost of 10 to 15,000
Yes, I did.
for 4 to 6 cuts.
Yeah.
So if you said it's double that, then that's another 15, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, pop that in.
Cool. So we're putting 15,000 on from the previous item. Back to you, Chair. Hope that helps the people to know what needs to be.
There are some quite big projects in there, obviously, because there are Southwell Bar, although there isn't any expenditure planned immediately, but that is a bit more on the horizon, as it were. And it does involve seal funding. But the officers feel that things have come in there are no great surprises. That was their overall message. there may be surprises in there that they could describe to me. Any more comments or questions? Councillor Bristol.
Yeah, a couple of things. So we all received an email earlier today from a resident asking about rent valuations and so on. I just wanted to say that I think that's being addressed through the form of a complaint, is it not, Town Clerk? And in any case, it would probably go to F&GP. So I just wanted to...
Yeah, I'm very glad you brought that up. I think but that's sort of speaking for the RFO, because obviously we haven't had time to respond yet. Our budget setting as a council is prudent. What that email is asking us to do is follow some processes that may increase our rental income.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's going to happen or not, so we're not making any changes to our budget because that wouldn't be prudent. The prudent thing is to do the lowest likely rent, which is what this budget includes. So that email doesn't change our budget.
It's more about the process.
There's other process points that are being followed up through the appropriate sources and in an appropriate way. But in terms of the budget, because we are taking a prudent approach to this in regards to rental income, a speculation about possible higher rental income has not been included in this budget and wouldn't be appropriate to do that.
Thanks. And the other question I wanted to ask is, obviously with the climate change subcommittee being a subcommittee of this parent committee, for example, if we might want to employ some specialist advice services in things that we're doing in the next year or so, how and where does that come out of the budget? This budget? Do we need to ask for our own budget, or how exactly does that happen? I'm a little unclear.
Well, last year, the Climate Change Subcommittee asked for some professional fees in the budget that this committee agreed.
Yeah.
So but your subcommittee hasn't asked for any costs for this year.
I haven't been asked to ask.
So, because that's the process that was followed the previous year, was that recognising there would be additional professional support needed for some of that work. So community services put funds in for professional fees to cover those costs.
Yeah, we haven't had that conversation.
So as chair of that committee, obviously there are professional fees and other funds. There's different budgets and costs shown here, including things like professional fees and stuff like that. So we're sort of taking it that those funds are sufficient for the sorts of things that you're talking about.
The bond has got its own budget, so it's not going to come out.
I'm just thinking with this grass thing coming through, we might need to...
But if any councillor feels that the total professional fees budget for this committee is not high enough, you're free to propose that we increase it. So another sort of you want to put another 5,000 or 10,000 in, then you could propose that, and we'd put that on the list of additional expenditure.
Would you like to propose that?
Would you like to propose that?
Sure. Yes.
For the Climate Change Subcommittee and other points of
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we'll add that. We'll have it as separate.
Okay, so we'll have another map for that. That's fine. Happy to have that.
Councillor Dillon.
Can I ask, so we've got £250,000 spend over and above income. Do we have the money for that, or does any of that require precept to be increased?
So basically, yes, Joe, I'm answering that, don't worry. Again, I think it's somewhere in the report. It is. There we go. 4.2 of the report gives an indication of the current position overall for the budget.
This is the conversation.
Yeah, so it's a repeat of that one. So basically, to understand the overall impact of everything so far, 4.2 is the answer to that question. Now, the RFO puts section 4.2 in deliberately because it helps you in terms of, if he said, well, at the moment we're looking at precepts going up 20%, you go, oh my goodness, we can't do that, better find some savings then. So that's why that clause is there. But this is proposing this is not proposing. It's saying the way this is heading at the moment is for an increase of around 2%, well below the rate of inflation. So I'm not telling you what to do, but it might sort of reassure you in terms of how all this is being funded and covered.
Anyone have any further questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment again. To commend the RFO and the Finance Department, because again, complete clarity, complete transparency, and very, very easy to understand all the information. So another home run, well done. And while I was laughing just now, you said 4.2 was the answer. I was just remembering the where the answer to everything is 42.
Yeah, we know what the question is yet.
That tickled me, the answer for you. But no, I would definitely commend, with no reference to the hitchhiker's guide at all, but commend the RFO and the team, because this makes our job much easier. And we're all asking very sensible questions because we now have the information to ask the right questions. Half the problem, I think, in the past is we didn't know what questions to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Therefore, they didn't get asked and things didn't get done.
Yeah.
But no, good job, guys. Well done.
Thank you, Jim.
You did say comment, so hopefully.
Thank you. I think that's a very nice, positive, grateful comment. Hopefully to everyone. Right, okay.
Don't worry, if you do something wrong, we'll tell you that too.
Okay. So first of all, we'll take this in two parts. So we're asked to comment on the draft committee budget 2024 to 25 and recommend its proposal to the Finance and General Purposes Committee. Can I have a proposal, please?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Councillor Rutland, a second. Anyone prepared for a second? Councillor Buck, thank you. Everyone in favour? Great. Anyone abstaining? Anyone against? Okay. But we'll also have a second point to recommend a budget for professional fees for the climate change subcommittee. Now, do you want us to put a figure on that, or should we say to be discussed? What was it we've got? 15k?
Do you want to? Yeah, I think you don't have to put a figure on it now. I can ask the RFO to liaise with the relevant, as long as this committee are happy for it to be left open in future. Because of course, as you know, the whole thing comes back to whole council anyway, so you get another go at it.
Okay.
So we'll get the RFO to liaise about that. So let's see if you're happy with that, Chair.
Yeah, that sounds very sensible. So to approve a budget for professional fees for the the climate change subcommittee to be agreed with the RFO and further discussed. Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, can I have a proposal, please?
15 grass cutting. That's an increase as well.
Right.
I think the 15 for the grass cutting is included in the first motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was just making sure there was clarity for everybody.
Yeah, fine.
About what you agreed.
So a proposer, Councillor Buchanan, and a seconder, Councillor Meek. All those in favour? Wonderful. Anyone abstaining? Anyone voting against? Right. 24 and 31.